Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to John Travolta, JMels24, Aaron Bowden, Unamento M, Iron26, Eric Troche, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKiernan, Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Case, Patrick Gunnels, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever's in Discord and Gilded and G+. I'll get it right one of these days, and you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Today, yeah, sorry. It's early for me yet.
That's all right.
But the thing is, yeah, I wouldn't put it an all or nothing fallacy that, just because I just don't see it.
No, I don't think that's what Neil is trying to say, but I agree with you as well. So, no, I mean, they're not all wrong. They're not all wrong all the time. Neither are we right all the time. That's just life.
But how do you, what I'm trying to say is, it's not just one. You got Phil Bell, you got ballers coming out of the woodworks, lining up with you.
This is a good thing. My goodness.
I know it is. I know it is. But
why? I'm not complaining at all. Make the demarcation.
I'm not complaining about any of us, but what I'm trying to say is some people are still like, can't see what actually was done when it's, listen, those are fighting words.
No, Neil. Watch. I'll do what you're doing, but the way I see it. Watch. I'll be exactly you, but the opposite. This is the greatest thing ever. Why? Well, because there's a demarcation line and there's people jumping ship and saying, man, I didn't know that's what Jaron and Bob and Glowbusters were teaching. I'm out of there. I'm going to be a new Patreon with Nathan. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is the best thing that happened for it to get to this, pun intended, boiling point for me to realize whose side is the side I should support because they speak reality. They're not goofing around. Okay, now that number will be always a lower number than the sheep that fall for anything. But look what we gained.
I agree, but I'm more talking.
No, I know, but change the tone to do it that way because, and now I'm pouring salt on them. I'm saying, thank you for saying you don't think heat boils water. Thank you for saying that. The most basic thing you can't get right. How am I going to believe you on the complex things? You know, that's called pride.
Yeah, and you had, yeah, it's pride. That's exactly. I like the word John used today in chat for pride.
What do you use? What do you use?
Let John tell you. He's not here?
Well, he's driving, I think.
Hubris.
Hubris.
Yeah. That's my word of the day. Because it's all over the place here.
Well, you're not going to yell taxi anymore. You can say hubris.
Only doctors can yell that and be. Yeah, but you had people in chat saying, "Oh, Jesus, that's the only thing that boils water."
Let him say it.
At sea level.
Listen, wow. Your mic went bad. Neil, your mic. Did it fall into a hole?
Can someone demonstrate it to me?
What happened to your mic,
Boil
man?
water without heat.
Neil, look at it the other way. instead of that way.
Oh yeah, I forgot. This is great.
We got people that don't know why water boils, and they have a show with thousands of followers. This is a classic, man.
Well, it's the basic thing too. It's that independent variable thing that they're not comprehending. They're trying to put 10 different variables to it.
Oh, they know it. They just don't want to adhere to it because they're punting an idea that this scientific method can be used for, which is fine. There are many things you can't use it for, but you still could have an idea. You could have a guess or a philosophy. No one's saying you can't. And we're not even saying the ether doesn't exist. We're not even doing that. And they got all uptight about it to the point where water boils, but they don't know why.
Kent, excuse me, sir.
Yes.
That's wrong. That's
Oh,
wrong.
I
They
apologize.
say that ether doesn't exist.
Oh, they say ether doesn't exist. At the same time, they say it does.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things we're upset about with them.
Okay. Well, it might exist because God made things invisible and visible. It might exist. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying if it's non-manifest and it's invisible, I will never know.
No, that's not what non-manifest means.
Well, what does it mean?
Air is invisible, but it's manifest, right?
Oh, yes. I'm not talking about something I feel.
Right, but the manifest is something you experience, right?
Well, my senses are going to feel something like air, which is invisible. Yes.
So if you can't experience it in any way, not just visually, I've heard them with the visible light thing getting confused about what causes sunburn. Like,
I understand what John's saying.
but-
He's right.
they're the ones saying that ether doesn't exist and then demanding that we accept it exists, which is insanity.
Insanity.
Yeah. Good summary, John.
Yeah, well put. They're saying, look, accept that it doesn't exist in any physical or tangible manner. It's non-manifest. Now accept how non-manifest its existence is. What? How can we accept it if it's non-manifest?
Oh, it's their undoing, unfortunately, but fortunately, because I like it when organically people's credibility is either shown or shown not to be there. And so when you go name calling and doing all this stuff, it just tells you the fire was lit under something. I mean, maybe not the water for them, but it was lit under there, and they're reacting to it.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's in black and white. There's no shades here. This is a black and white issue, and I'm not talking about race.
Well, you better be careful there because Nathan's 20% black.
I'm still trying to figure out what Nathan is.
He's everything anytime you want him to be. He's like the ether.
Boy, they were in the chat going crazy yesterday. I screenshot the one thing this guy said. I'm gonna, when I'm not driving, I'll share it. It's hysterical.
Well, it's been how long since we talked about the elevation angle and cited everything using Nathaniel Bowditch, American Practical Navigator, to must all have books. Now it's in 2 parts, but there used to be 1. And all the other books on astronomy and simple things like elevation angle and LOP, line of position, circle of equal altitude, zenith distance, the geographical position or ground point, the GP of the observer. And this, we've gone through this so many times using their own books, totally destroying their globe Earth. And they still fight.
Yeah, but you know something on that sense, you would think that would unite. Something devastating like that would unite. Instead, we got this.
Who you saying unite with who? The Baltard? The
No. Flat
anti-flat
earthers.
earther?
No, regular flat earthers stumble across this argument like, whoa, this is it. And
Yeah,
we
but
line up with it, but instead we get
well,
what's the word I'm looking for? We get hassled.
let me give you for an instance. BLMSB 69 does a video. Taboo Conspiracy puts the video on his channel. QE watches the video, and QE enhances the video to modus tollens and makes a beautiful argument out of it. We all united. It didn't have to. I mean, I see what you're saying, but it's like, why wouldn't the flat earther take a strong argument and use it? Well, maybe because the only ones they use is the ones they think of.
That's fine, but don't create nonsense out of it and start something. I don't get it. Like, I don't. Maybe it's me.
No, you get it. We all know what it is. Golly. They don't like us.
Hey, can we take a minute for some conspiratard nonsense?
I love it. Let's go.
All right. So the controlled opposition has seen how devastating the elevation angle is to the heliocentric models. So they've used their agents to attack us.
I love it. Hey, how about the black swan? It happened there too, right?
Not as much, no. That like because you were still begging the question with the black swan. It was almost acceptable, except when you disproved your premise in that statement. So
No, but
that's
we
why
got
it was.
I'm sorry, but we got flat earthers who don't like the black swan argument because refraction. And then Q says, exactly. Oh,
I don't think they don't like the argument because of refraction. I think it's a personal thing they have.
oh, there we go. That's what I was saying. So because they didn't come up with it, because they got to say, hey, that guy on the side that I don't care for came up with something good. I've been telling you I didn't like him, but now I got to quote him. Forget it. Let it happen. It's just the way it is. It's organic. No one caused it, but whoever wants to cause it.
Hey, Neil, what was the word of the day there? I was going to say hubris, but I just ruined the conversation.
Well,
Sorry.
I know where Neil went.
I forgot he was driving.
Oh, that's right. Well, in the whole celestial navigation, the trick is always within the illustrations, meaning the true angle is where they place the human being at, and that's always at the center of the Earth, where there's an equatorial plane. That equatorial plane is a terrestrial plane, okay? Where it meets in those pictures, in the way they model it, is the celestial horizon, which extends the equatorial plane to infinity to the concave of the celestial sphere model. Okay. Now, where they meet, the equatorial plane, which is terrestrial in their drawings, and where it meets the celestial horizon, which extends it all the way to the stars in their imagery, that point where they meet is called the equinoctial. So they got all these terms to get you away from the actual thing that the picture is showing you, that the angle is coming from a flat plane. then they got the star somewhere above, and they used the arc of the protractor to create the globe. And yet, when you really dig into it, you realize that's a latitude position on their imagery of the globe. And they have another small circle there, not a great circle like the equator, because there's only one great circle, and it's the equator, and the rest of the great circles are longitude. But this is non-existent, it's not real. So you got to get rid of all that dingleberry stuff. So you got the flat plane, the equatorial plane. It meets the celestial horizon. It's called the equinoctial. It extends all the way to the stars. They've got you at the center because all true altitudes in all their nautical books is measured from the center. So no matter where you are on this imagery of a curved surface, you're really not there. You're really on the plane. They put the star in those images where the observer should be, but that's if you have the sense to look at the celestial sphere as the sky, but then they put a small circle there. And then they have what they call a vertical circle, which is the longitude line from the equator to a pole, and the star is somewhere in between that. But where the star is, there's a small circle, meaning a flat sky. And there's your angle. So get rid of the arcs, keep the star where it's at, keep the equatorial plane, and now you have your two lines that create a vertex from where the observer is. And guess where that is? Sea level. Did I bore you?
No.
It went quiet. I thought that was.
I was just trying to cook up a pun about being B level, but couldn't come up with anything. Sorry.
A pun about being what?
B level.
D level.
Is that Creation Bear?
Yeah, what's up, guys?
Hey, man. Good to have you, man. Good to have you. I'm hoping this is a really great show.
Yeah, glad to be here. I hope the same.
So, what's the general conversation about today, guys?
Summary.
Mhm.
People who are adults don't know why water boils, even when you show them its heat. The equatorial plane meeting the celestial horizon at a point called the equinoctial. Your right angle measurement is actually sea level, but they put it at the equator and draw lines around, pretending you're on a globe. And hubris.
I guess there's more to it than than I don't know. Never mind. It's
Say
too
it.
early.
Say
It's
it.
too early. It's too early.
Say it. It's
It's
all right.
too
Say it.
early. It's too
Say
early.
it. Say it. Say it.
No, there's no more to it. I mean, it was in live in chat yesterday. They continue to struggle with the boiling water.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, man.
What do you mean you don't know? You
I
don't know
don't
heat
know.
causes boiling
I
water?
wasn't there. I was elsewhere. You know. I
Okay, but
wasn't
let me
there.
ask you something. If someone says they don't know if heat causes boiling water, what would you think right off the bat?
Did someone say the words that I okay?
I'm asking you if
Recently,
someone,
after
hang on.
having clarification, like because I understand
I
I
got
had my own
a
conversation, but
I got a
recently, like
screenshot.
yesterday, did someone say they don't know that heat causes water to boil, or
First,
is one of the causes?
first of
None.
all, hang on, Neil. The question to you, Eli, was if someone said, quit thinking of someone as someone you know. If someone said they're not sure if heat causes water to boil and you can't prove it, what would you think about it?
Well, I'm gonna answer you like I answer the other side. I would think that that was ridiculous.
Thank you.
But also, who's saying that specifically?
I'll give you three guesses. Starts with J, ends with ism,
I mean,
Judaism?
or did he say? I don't know because I don't watch
Science
enough.
doesn't prove things. You can't. There could be other reasons why the water's boiling.
See, so is I mean, look, we know that Witsit I've spoken to Witsit and he's expressed to me that Jared, like, okay, maybe he doesn't have the vernacular, the correct vocabulary at all times, but he said, not that you have to believe him, that what he meant was sometimes, like, when you get a hypothesis that isn't the only cause.
Well, that's true. But you're only testing one independent variable. You have control variables, and you have an observation, which is your dependent variable, water boiling. And now you're at your stove. Someone says, "Hey, I bet you if you turn that on and apply heat, your water would boil." And the person is saying, "Well, how do you know that?" He says, "Well, I've done it before. Let's try it." Cold water, and you turn it on, and next thing you know, it starts to boil. You say, "Okay, well, we know that causes water to boil." And someone says, "Hey, is there something else that might cause water to boil?" Yeah, that'd be another test.
Yeah, I'm glad that's a good clarification to make. That okay, yeah, we understand that uh, when you have a hypothesis, it may not be the only cause. I mean, because again, just like I
Right,
asked you,
I can't wait any longer to interject. I'm really sorry because I've got to start. The
uh,
claim is that science does not prove. Science doesn't prove. That's the claim. So to say, oh,
Correct.
well, it's not the only cause, so we've proven a cause then. So he's conceded his point, if that's his argument now. Because his argument is Nathan's a scammer because he goes around saying science proves things. Now, an application of the scientific method can only prove things. If the argument then changes to, well, it's not the only proven cause, then it's time for him to retract his claims that by saying it proves things, I'm a scammer, because that's the actual argument, as opposed to his little segue onto, well, it's not the only cause. So we've proven a
I
cause then.
agree.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by the Adam Meakin, Neil, 10th Man, Eli, Refracted Curvature, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Gilded, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Good
morning.
Okay.
Good
so
morning indeed.
It is. Right, I'm having some minor PC issues as I'm ironing out the creases with this new PC, so if I'm a little bit hesitant at any point during the show, just accept that there's something probably not quite right. But don't worry, we'll crack on as though nothing's happening. Any evidence of a physical geometric spheroid horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
No evidence whatsoever, and it's no turning point for them because pun intended. Because if we did live on a sphere with a radius of 3959, then you would know by the elevation of the observer where Earth curve has to be, and it couldn't be any further than that. It would have to be limited based on the radius. So with the black swan and other proofs, just like the black swan, it destroys the fact that Earth is a sphere with a radius. And no one, just like when I was in the cigar shop, I said, has anyone here seen Earth curvature, whether on a plane at 30,000 feet or on the ground? And all of them said no.
Yeah, but that's because it's refraction. So
Well-
you know it's curved because it looks so flat.
Yeah, I was about to add that on as well. Exactly. When you say refraction, you're saying, I apologize for how flat it looks. It's not really flat. It just looks that way because the light's bending at a presupposed R value at 7/6 of it.
Exactly.
How would you measure?
Okay.
How would you measure celestial bodies if the ground was bending?
You wouldn't. You'd need an elevation angle measurement, and that would require a flat baseline. So without a flat baseline, there is no measurement. You can only acquire these measurements from a flat Earth. Earth is flat. That's how it's measured. That's how the models have been made, including, but not limited to, the spherical heliocentric model, derived and built from flat plane elevation angle measurements. Earth's flat.
Nathan,
But that's exactly why terrestrial refraction works so well, because it makes everything seem flat, and that's exactly what you need to deal with the stars.
great. Now, Nathan, repeat that thing because I'm going to give you an answer within there begging the question, which we don't like to do. But in this case, the black swan starts with the begging of the question. So I'm going to take it to a subject matter expert. So why did they say refraction, Nathan?
Because they're making apologies for the fact that it looks flat by claiming that the Earth has a radius value and the light is following the curve of that radius value at a rate of 7/6 of that radius value by pre-assumption.
All right. So in the black swan picture, the Hill House and Habitat, the platforms, I think 6.4 miles and 9 point something miles out, and the horizons behind both those at a 1 foot observer height. Where should it be if there was no refraction?
If there was no refraction,
Yeah, assume you're a baller and you're saying it's refracted. So where would it be if the atmosphere was gone? Where would it need it to be?
well, what you're saying,
1.22.
No Atmo day.
it's
No
a
Atmo
convoluted.
day.
Let me answer a convoluted question, because you say if there was no atmosphere, you're implying in physical terms we remove all the air. 7/6 of a radius value, aka terrestrial refraction, has nothing to do with air and everything to do with a readjustment of the terrain by bending the R value. Nothing to do with light, even though it's labelled terrestrial refraction. It might as well be called terrestrial elephant, because it's got sod all to do with refraction. They just label it so that there's a bait and
What?
switch
No,
in place.
that's
So
Hang
I'm
on,
nearly
hang on,
there. I'm
Arlen,
nearly
hang on.
there. So because you're asking me if I'm a baller and I say refraction, I'm then having to also disclaim the bait and switch of refraction to answer your question, even though I'm a baller. Because it's not refraction, is it? It's just bending the radius value at 7/6 in standard form, or any derivative that gives you a flat outlook, to apologise for it. So I don't understand how I can answer your question without speaking out both sides of my mouth.
Okay, let me give
the
you.
radius or extending the
Hang on,
radius? I was just asking.
Guys,
I know, but there's a flow here that I want to keep. All right, so subject matter expert Andrew Thomas Young says if you do not have an atmosphere, it's 1.22 miles times the square root of the observer's height and so on. But if we apply refraction, it's 1.32 miles. Now, again, if we're quoting their subject matter expert, and he's saying, now I know you perfectly describe 7/6R versus actual refraction, but if he's saying at 1 foot with refraction, it's got to be at 1.32, and without refraction, meaning no Atmo day, it's 1.22. We still have the black swan that shows the platforms at 6.41 and 9 point something, and the horizons beyond that. So even their own answer fails them, if you follow what I'm saying.
yeah, what you're saying is, if you assume that air is sphere-shaped, which it isn't, and that the light that is air that's sphere-shaped is removed, then we're left with a geometric tangent point horizon at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. However, if we reinstate the sphere-shaped air in order to justify bending the radius at 7/6 of the radius to flatten out the terrain for this apology that we're going to make for how flat it looks, then that mathematics that has nothing to do with air but I've bait and switched you to make you think it is, puts the horizon at 1.3 miles out as opposed to beyond a 6 and 9 mile oil platform. Therefore, even with their apologetics and their terrestrial refraction at the rate that's standard, it doesn't bring them in any way close to justifying or apologising for how flat it is when the horizon's beyond those two oil rigs. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now let me just round it off. And so then when we show Andrew Thomas Young saying all of my refraction calculations were done from a flat plane, and then say, full stop. And then he says, but the Earth isn't flat, exclamation point. So we're going to do some geometric considerations. He pretty much admitted to you that everything he got was from a flat plane. So where's the 7/6R?
Well, after he apologises for the Earth having a spherical value and making the air sphere-shaped using that value, and then claiming that light is a ray travelling in an orthographic view from target to observer, he has to claim that the bait and switch part of it is actually in some way related to the refraction that he can observe in reality. And when he does, he has to do the calculations and observations based on flat plane observations as opposed to spherical Earth observations. So while he's making these apologetics, they're only apologetics for the bait and switch part of the process, which is to say that terrestrial refraction's got nothing to do with the refraction he's studied on a flat plane. But what we should focus on the fact that he's studied the refraction on a flat plane, and perhaps in the mind's eye of other people who attack this argument, ignore the fact that what he's actually using at 7/6 of the radius has nothing to do with what he measured on a flat plane or otherwise.
What?
7/6 of a radius value has got nothing to do with the measurements he took and disclaimed he took off a flat plane. It's part of the bait and switch. Inside this suitcase is refraction, real refraction, measured on a flat plane refraction. Okay, we all clear we're dealing with light bending through mediums, traversing mediums, deviating from straight, refracting. We all clear what's in this suitcase? Refraction, real refraction on a flat plane. Oh, look over there for a second. Right, I'm just going to slam this suitcase, open this other suitcase. Check it out. So we're all clear that this has got refraction in it. I'm going to close this suitcase with 7/6 of a radius value in it. That wasn't the suitcase that you just looked at, measuring stuff off a flat plane or otherwise. That was a different suitcase. The suitcase I've just closed and handed to you has got 7/6 of a radius in it.
I don't see the problem, as Baldwin.
You don't see the problem.
Kant is saying if you allow the apologetics of 7/6R, it's still not sufficient for the mismatch in the supposed geometry of a ball Earth. And as far as I can see, Nathan's saying that supposed apologetics isn't even applicable to what you're saying it's applied to allow it.
Correct.
Yeah, well, I mean, literally, they used 7/6R to explain why not enough building was missing or hidden behind the geometric horizon. Now we're talking about refraction moving the horizon. I don't get it.
Moves all over the place. When there's a lot of moisture in the air, the Earth will just look more like it really is. The horizon will seem closer and things are obscured behind it because the terrestrial refraction is kind of like limited because of all the extra moisture in the air. That's like, is it like Poncho Train, right? Makes it look more like it really is.
Okay,
except
let's just
even smaller.
stop Arwin before he gets too into this role. So what Arwin's doing intentionally, I hope, is convoluting the line between looking at a building on the left-hand side of a page and then drawing a curve between you and it, and having the curve with you on the, whatever I said the opposite to, left-hand side of the page, if I said right, you on the opposite side of the page, looking at it in an orthographic view. So obviously you don't ever see the side of your own head, but that's what this maths is being done with, orthographic representations. Arwin's blurring the line between terrestrial refraction in an orthographic view and how it will block boats and buildings and what goes on in the air itself when you're looking at things. The two are not the same. So how much the light bends in an orthographic view at 7/6 of a radius is you seeing the side of your own head and seeing the side of the target you're claimed to be looking at. But you're not looking at it, you're looking at the side of it and the side of your own head, and then bending a line between the two at 7/6 of a radius of a circle at 3959 miles. That's what you're actually doing. Sod all to do with light and how it behaves in air. Arwin, as I say for the third time, is intentionally, I hope, blurring those lines to demonstrate the bait and switch. Now, if you want to,
importantly,
go
I'm
on.
just going by what I learned from Rumpus in 2017.
Yeah, what Rumpus did was blur those lines. He was baiting and switching between the two. Go ahead, Adam.
the bit I certainly that took time to catch on was, more importantly, we're conflating an orthographic view with how we see with a lens in perspective, and we're mismatching those measurements of perspective with geometry when we transfer.
And also the 27/6 forward with respect to the horizon.
Yes, that's correct. It's the target that's refracted with respect to the horizon until you get to Andrew Thomas Young, not disclaimed, when they're trying to claim that there's a physical geometric limitation to your view called Earth curve blocking a boat or a building in the distance, and the 7/6 of the radius values bending the light with respect to the horizon. However, when the horizon's beyond the limitations of a geometric horizon at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, they have to apologise and refract the horizon also, meaning they no longer have any geometry to base this assertion on. It destroys the entirety of the model, because you've no longer got a concrete base to get the R value to bend the light with respect to that R-based horizon that's supposed to be Earth curve blocking things in the distance. And then, oh, well, it's not quite blocked or blocked a bit too much, so we'll bend the light at the rate of the radius with respect to the horizon. Anyway, I want to explain what the debate, just before we move on. The bait and switch, right? So go and watch a movie called Matchstick Men, which is all about con artists. And one of the specific cons, they get the mark to believe that he can change a currency and make 10 times the money that he puts in. So initially he starts small, he gives the con men about $1,000, and the con men genuinely go to the bank and take out 10 grand in a different currency and give it to him. Then the guy ups the ante, does it with 10 grand. So then they've got to really up the ante and go and get 100 grand of real money to give him, so he walks away with 10x what he thinks he's going to get. Then he does what is actually the swindle. This is where the bait and switch comes in. They arrange to have the exorbitant, whatever it is, $1 million, just for ease of numbers, in the suitcase, so that they can show him a huge wad of money, because he's going to give them, or is going to exchange, they're going to exchange briefcases, one that's got 10 times less the amount that they're going to swap over. So they show him the suitcase with all this money, flicks through it, it's all genuine, it's all there, it's an absolute shed load of cash. But then his partner in crime, the con man's partner in crime, causes a little distraction. And they've already set up a different suitcase on the pew that they're sat on in this airport where the exchange is taking place, just behind him. So he's practiced the move over and over again, where he reaches behind him, grabs the completely different suitcase with fake paper in, and puts the real money right behind him. So then when they cause a kerfuffle and the guy turns around just for a moment, he closes the suitcase with the real money in and puts the suitcase with the fake money in, just a couple of notes on top. So as he turns back around and the suitcase closes, he just glances the top notes that aren't, the top of lots and lots of money. Close the suitcase, do the exchange, they walk off into the distance having swindled him. They've got both suitcases with all the money, and the bait and switch is complete. Well, that's directly comparable to describing how the light will bend, if you want to put it in really dumbed down terms, how light refraction is actually demonstratable. Cut to a video of somebody releasing a very inert gas on a barrel with some plasticine models behind it, and watch them dropping below the barrel, the curve of the barrel. So they induce a transition, i.e. Snell's law takes effect, the light changes direction effectively, it's no longer moving in a straight path, and its deviation from straight is noticeable as the gradient increases as you increase the gas between you and the thing you're looking at in physical reality with a camera with your eyeball. So you see it sinking behind the barrel. Great. That's your suitcase with $1 million in it, because that's refraction in action on tape, like you viewed it with your own eye, akin to because you've taken a video of it. Then cause a little distraction, maybe tell somebody that they're an idiot, or whatever distraction's required to get that suitcase closed and reopen a different suitcase that's got Muppet vision, seeing the side of your own head, absolutely sod all to do with how things look, 7/6 of a terrestrial radius value with a sphere Earth and bendy sphere-shaped air around it. Just as you, whatever distraction's been caused, get your attention back on the person selling you what you thought was light bending to move the plasticine, they close the suitcase on 7/6R and hand it to you. And then you've got a suitcase with globe-based Muppet vision refraction that's sod all to do with anything you ever see ever, and it can't be, because you'll never see the side of your own head for the maths in the suitcase that you're walking off into the distance with. So while I've elaborated on this to a massive extent, it's because Arwin's very good at blurring the lines, like a baller was here. He gets a lot of compliments as well for anybody who moans about Arwin, which they do. Anyone who's brilliant and gets close to the bone is going to annoy people. That's just how it is. But Arwin is the quintessential perfect baller. He knows how to put the argument in such a manner. He says, I'm just repeating rumpus. Well, you've paid attention to the rumpus then, haven't you? Enough to be able to replicate how he bait and switches people with terrestrial versus actual refraction. I thank you.
Right,
10th,
but
go ahead.
it's also
Oh, sorry.
also
10th was in the
because
wings, Arwin. I know I addressed you in that, but 10th's been waiting. Can you just let him give way? Go ahead, 10th.
So I love the summary. I love that we're spending time on this, because when they first said, when we know it's in respect to the horizon, then they said the horizon is being refracted. They still have a big problem on their hand, because Andrew Thomas Young said that then that horizon could be no further than 1.32 miles. So, but we still have the black swan showing well over 9 miles. So even if they make an error of that magnitude, you say, okay, so now you're saying that the horizon is being refracted? Okay, well, according to your subject matter expert, that should be at 1.32 miles, which is nonsense. But if you're going to die on nonsense, why is it well over 9 miles? So they still end up losing the argument.
You know what? That's interesting, because
Hold on,
especially
hold
being
on,
in
Eli. Hold on. Just let Arwin go now. Then Eli. Go ahead,
oh, my
Arwin.
bad, Owen. Go ahead.
right. Well, I was going to elaborate a bit on like how I do it, right? How do I do that switch? Well, I do it completely subconsciously, because when I actually engage in Baldwin thinking, I believe it. I believe it from a baller perspective, right? So I don't intend to lie or fool. I just have to believe something that's a bit of a stretch because it works so well. And that's what I basically engage in. So to me, when I said like, yeah, but no terrestrial fractions there because sometimes it does look like a ball, that's something that ballers would actually say in that time period, when we wouldn't figure out the black swan argument and all that yet.
And the two words in there are
Genuinely
look.
believe that.
Morning,
The
guys.
two words in there were looks like, because it doesn't look like 7/6I. It can't look like, but that's the bait and switch aspect. Go ahead. Who was it? Eli? Go ahead.
Yeah, even like going to Jim Panders and Panders, Panderer. The thing is, they all concede. No, it's not 7/6R. It's extreme refraction. We've told you this before, and yada 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 yada. So
Super
okay,
mega looming.
so they try to justify begging the question with Andrew Thomas Young, but there's parameters. It's like, what is the justification for anything beyond that? Like, what's the actual argument? I don't get it. Like, there's no math to it. There's literally nothing other than them saying it's extreme refraction.
Extreme refraction. What was it that
Super
one guy
mega
said?
looming.
What was it? Refraction of a special kind or something like that?
Yeah.
There's
Like, really?
infinite refraction.
If
Nobody
Earth has a
remembers the
radius,
super mega looming?
It's extreme looming non-standard refraction.
Well, if Earth has
Well,
a radius and it's curving, why would they have to apply the Haversine formula to it?
Can
well,
you
listen,
explain what that
as
means?
long as you're not standing on the corner with your briefcase, with your Haversine formula, on the same corner that I'm standing with my trench coat, my geometric horizon inside.
Mm.
Don't take my corner.
John, can you explain that? Why are you bringing that up? What is the Haversine formula?
It's a transformative equation. It changes something into something else. If you're measuring a sphere, why are you changing it into what? What are you changing it into?
Mumra.
Or to link it, if you've got 7/6 of the radius, aka standard refraction or terrestrial refraction, well, if the light's bending around a spherical surface, why is it necessary to perform a transformative equation to spherical if it's already spherical?
Yeah, I like that formulation of it.
Basically, Eli, that what they're doing, and you can read on this and see illustrations. The PCX navigational triangle that they'd like to use, which
Yeah, yeah.
is based on the Haversine, as John explained, is a formula that brings in quote unquote spherical trigonometry for them. So in order for the observer's GP and the star's GP, and those lines go to the center of the Earth in all these illustrations, to have an arc that they meet on, and for the math to work, this is what John is talking about. So they take an angle with an angle measuring device called a sextant. It's two straight lines meeting at a vertex where the observer is. And then they want to say that I'm really on the arc where above me, my zenith, and above the star, GP, the star, that curved Earth that they want to draw every time, that dingleberry, that's the formula to make that happen. But that's not what's happening.
So I'm gonna ask the most award-winning question for the ballers. Is the Haversine formula necessary?
That's a good question.
Isn't it? I'm scared of the answer. Don't you fucking disappoint me.
No. We've been fishing, Eli. We've been fishing for a really concise way of putting this. And is the Haversine formula necessary? That's about as concise as you can get that question, I would say. It doesn't contextualize it enough, but it's pretty damn concise.
It is for the ball.
Well, if it was already a ball, it wouldn't be necessary. So
No,
That's great. Hold on, Eli. Hold on.
it-
Give him credit. If the Earth is a sphere, or how did you say it, Chocolate? Say it. Just add on the two parts. You say it.
I said, well, his question was, is the Haversine formula necessary? Well, they're only applying it for the ball, right? So if it was a ball already, it wouldn't be necessary because it's already a ball.
Okay. So the question becomes, is the Haversine formula necessary if the Earth is a sphere? Copyright Nathan Oakley. I'm calling it. That's mine.
I don't know. I don't like it. Wait a minute.
That was so easy. How'd you get it?
No, wait a minute. If I was a baller, I would be saying no. When you use the Haversine formula, because you need to, because it's actually a sphere, that's when you get all the accurate values.
What, measurements of a sphere? That's when you get all the accurate sphere measurements to do the angle measurements with? No, you do not.
Yeah, you got to transform measurements from a sphere to a sphere. That doesn't make sense, does it?
So then that's what it goes back to my question. Since it's a plane, then is the Haversine necessary for us? Like, or in general, is it necessary, or is it just a product of the argument?
if you
Eli,
want to make it work in the flat Earth celestial sphere model, it's necessary. That's not dependent upon reality, though. That's just a model too.
Eli, if you're a baller or an anti-flat earther, and you have a tool that could only measure angles, and we define what an angle is: two straight lines being a vertex. The only place that could ever happen is the equatorial plane. That's why they cut the dingleberry in half and say all the measurements in the nautical almanac derive from here. Now, you say, well, if all the measurements derive from there, who in the world with a section is at the middle of the Earth on an equatorial plane with the globe sliced in half? You know, a great circle, a disk that's flat, basically. Well, nobody. We're on the surface. We need a formula so we can prove we're on the surface doing this and not on the plane.
Let's ask the question.
The
Let me
surface
just
that
ask the
we're
question.
pretending
I'm
is
almost
flat.
Hold on. Let me just ask the question. Is there any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved surface?
Impossible. So they came up with a transformative formula equation, which John has really eloquently described, and also Brian. And what they do is they transform it that it's the arc of the sky. So if you think of a protractor, the arc part of it, they make that the inner, well, it's a twofold thing now. They make that the inner, let me finish.
No, I get it now.
I know, but let me finish for the audience. They make that a twofold thing. One, if you project it to the celestial sphere, which is imaginary, it's the inner concave surface that has that same arc. Then it's reprojected down over that equatorial plane, that great circle, as a globe, 2 points on that arc.
Okay.
Why do that is what Chocolate is saying, if you already live on the sphere.
I've got bad news. Just had an update from Brian's logic. He says that the phraseology that I came up with, he came up with 2 weeks ago. So,
Which was stolen from Arwen and
telepathically.
What?
Yes.
No.
Any evidence of the R value? That's Earth radius.
Well, they have a 25-letter alphabet now because we took away their R.
But they could still trust in it and believe in it.
Well, there's loads of evidence, but it all comes from elevation angles off a flat level baseline.
Nathan, I put a picture in Master Debater just to finish up the point. Sorry, One Deck.
Did we do axial rotation already?
No.
Did I miss that?
We know it. We're on to the third question. It's up 10th.
Okay,
Well, that's usually the second.
So for the audience and whoever else could see this diagram, measurement of the celestial sphere. So that big outside circle is the imaginary celestial sphere. Now you could see where the angle is deriving from. Okay, it's a great circle. It's the equatorial plane. They don't show the Earth in here, but where that vertex is, if you see Z, and it goes all the way down to the equatorial plane, and then M, where the star is, okay, well, that's an angle there. And the zenith distance is the distance to the GP of that star from the GP of the observer, who's got the vertical right there. But you could see the baseline is on the disk equatorial plane, and that's 90 degrees. That's why you subtract from 90 the elevation angle. But what's interesting in this picture is that they put a parallel altitude, a small circle, and the stars on that small circle. Now remember, this is out in space in their model, and it's that star is attached to the inner surface of a made-up celestial sphere, and it's a concave. You see that concave angle there? That's called their vertical circle. They just reproject this down and create a globe there. But there was never a globe there. That's the Hammerstein formula.
That's a really good picture, this one. Doesn't
Yeah,
make it as
it's
easy for you to just think like, oh no, I'm looking at a globe, right? No, 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 not with this one.
well, you don't even see the globe in this one, but it's
Good.
where the vertex is.
Now, this is very good because, as Arwin says, you can easily show how you've got the arc of the protractor through the top with that black line. What's it labelled as? Celestial sphere. So where it says celestial sphere, that's your essentially your protractor, right? That's your marked off. You could mark all the angles off.
Mm-hmm.
So you can easily describe this. You can see the flat plane that you'd be standing on. It's nice and simple. But then you can say, now if you colour in the outside edge that says celestial sphere as a globe, you can understand how this would work. Although technically that's not strictly true, because this would end up being a dingleberry, wouldn't it? It would be at the centre. It would be about where this is it a number 6, where it says E. Well, for east, right, where it says E. That would be where they draw in an extra spherical part of the model.
I'll get you a picture that shows it the way they reify it. Right now, it's not reified. Right now, what they're doing is they're showing the Earth we live on, that great circle, the disk. That's where we live on, that big shaded area. That's where the angles are all coming from. And then they draw only the celestial sphere where they attach the star to the inner concave surface. And then it's reprojected down, but they don't show what it's reprojected down. This is a tell. This is saying, look at the azimuth is always north in the clockwise motion. So they got an azimuth working on the flat disk. They've got you seeing only the imaginary celestial sphere, so they have to make it that a sphere, okay? But they forgot to put the Earth there. Let me get a picture that shows their reification. I'll be right back.
I don't know what question's most appropriate to ask while he's looking for that. We'll ask something totally unrelated or semi-unrelated. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Nah. You even require a container to create a vacuum because naturally it doesn't happen. Nature abhors a vacuum.
Interesting, that picture, because it's the top half's wrong, isn't it? It's trying to express two concepts.
Yeah, I caught that.
Yeah. So if you look at where the star is at point M, what it's claiming is that top circle, the parallel of altitude. If you think about that within the diagram and combine that with reality, the star is going to be lower, hence why you've got the angle.
It's
so
on the
that
horizon.
Parallel of altitude
It's on
isn't
the
a
horizon.
parallel of altitude. Yeah, it's only a parallel of altitude in the mathematics. So, because you can see it's curving anywhere on that protractor, it's curving, isn't it? The altitude's increasing as you get to your zenith. So that point M would not be on the same. In that diagram, you can see it's physically lower. It's got a lower angle. It's not 90. So to draw out that parallel kind of contradicts where it is, but it's not, because you're trying to grasp the fact that distance is drop in angle,
right?
Because everything's on that parallel of altitude. Even the star that you see at 10 degrees just above the horizon is on that parallel of altitude, started at the zenith.
Sure, but if they were to represent this accurately, you'd have a second depiction of M up at the same angle. So what Adam's saying is, if your position is here where my mouse is now, you've got this angle out along the plane of the surface that you're standing on up to the star at M. Whereas if you take the parallel of altitude up here, this circled disc, and you're standing at, let's say, Z, because it's not actually marked, but as close as damn it. If you're standing at Z, the stars on the horizon, if this is to be considered a plane that you could stand on, it's no longer at whatever this is, 50 degrees, something like that. Where it's at, 90 degrees? It's on the horizon in this parallel of altitude. The only place it actually makes any sense is at the centre of this grey disc, because that's where the actual angle to it is coming from and being measured. So that's your position where you'd actually stand holding a sextant looking at the star and seeing where it is in the sky in relation to your horizon, as opposed to parallel of altitude. Now, if you were to actually depict this, he's kind of making a bit of globe topology to do so, but they have similar diagrams. It might be one that we get in a moment, where you have a second parallel angle coming from that they'll just claim that can be transposed down when it has a globe burger in the middle. Actually, we'll move on to that now, as that's what this diagram is what I was trying to drive at. So you've got the outside edge being the circle that represents your view if you cut it in half. So this is what you end up with. And then that gives you the angle. That's your protractor. And then the globe Earth is just stuck in the middle of what was the celestial sphere on the other diagram. This is a good little GIF. Like it. Did you want to add anything to this 10th, as it's presumably you that's posted it?
Which one are you looking at? I
The
posted a
animated one.
bunch.
The animated one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see it. Okay. Yeah, that's like, so there's your celestial sphere, the big gray circle. And then you've got in this image, the Earth inserted, whereas in the previous image, only you saw that equator, which would be the equatorial plane. So you do realize that we do live on an irregular plane, and all angle measurements are done from it, and everything is based off sea level. That's why the horizon and dip correction is to get your eyeball on the sea level. Now, how they trick you is once you do that, they say that that's zero. When you get it eye level on sea level, that's zero. And they tie that into the equatorial plane, which is really where you are, but they call it equatorial plane when they cut the Earth in half. And then they extend that to the celestial sphere, which is called the celestial horizon. With it just keeps going. Okay. But where the two meet is called the equinoctial. So in this previous picture, the one that we first saw without the Earth there in the middle, if you put an Earth there in the middle, if you just go to some of the slides I sent you, you'll see it. I don't know which ones you're showing at the moment, but go to Master D and you'll see a bunch more.
I'm on top of it. I'm keeping up with what you're saying. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, you can just, well, which one are you on? Just tell me that.
At the moment, I'm on the main one, which is the first one we covered. That's pretty much the best one so far. Not best, but you know what I mean, most appropriate for the discussion. So I'm flicking back to that one. I'm currently on it now.
Okay, so let's just go from there and I'll round it up. So the first one that you're on shows it without a globe reification where the angles are measured from. It doesn't show the globe there. It just shows the celestial equator from the center of an Earth that's not there, just extending all the way out. Go to the next one, you'll see the GIF, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so now go through the GIF and you'll see this one is showing you, okay, what if we do put a globe there? And well, we still need that equator, which was in the previous picture where all the angles are coming from. So the dingleberry is really not necessary. Okay. So then if you go, once you're done with that, to the next picture, you could see the same thing here. And it shows the globe in the middle with an equator line and the zenith distance going to the center of the Earth. And then you got the celestial sphere around it. All right. Well, what is the next one after that? Next one after that would be an airplane getting the same angle as the person on the surface of this reified globe Earth once you get to sea level and get a 90, which happens to match the celestial horizon, which is the equatorial plane, reaching past the Earth all the way to the celestial sphere, which is imaginary. So you got three lines. They're all horizontal. And if you say, well, where's the angle coming from? Well, the books say it's coming from the center of the Earth. Well, because sunlight, we assume, is coming in parallel, then all the angles are the same. And whether you're 5 miles up or on the surface of the water, eye level after dip correction, flat, zero, all these are zero. The horizontal is always the zero line. Well, where do they have it emanating from? The equatorial plane, which is what we live on. This top half of this hemisphere and the bottom half don't belong there. Go to the next one. You could see this one showing many things, but it shows the celestial sphere And then you can see that PZX navigational triangle to the right side of it. So it's projected out to the inner concave surface and then reprojected back on Earth by the Haversine formula. Go to the next one. It's the one that's blue. This one's really cool because it shows the celestial sphere and all the stars stuck underneath. And then it shows the Earth's equator, terrestrial equator, meeting with the celestial horizon, which extends all the way to the celestial sphere. And at that point, it's called the equinoctial. And you can see right here, all the angles must come from that disk that extends from the Earth all the way to the celestial sphere, so a flat plane. Next slide. Celestial concepts. This has some cool imagery. Look at this, the bottom right, that one yellowish one. So that's the Haversine right there being projected back down. If you look right above it, you'll see the white celestial sphere with the latitude, longitude lines on the outside and the stars on the inside. That's how they talk about it. And then you see that has to be projected down to those two red dots that create the arc. So there's their spherical trigonometry that the Haversine gives them. But where's the angle vertex emanating from? Obviously, 0, an equator, the equatorial plane. This is all the trickery they go through. If you go to the next slide, or of course, this was the best one. This is what they say they're doing from the surface of the Earth, getting a right angle triangle and doing the subtraction from 90 from the elevation angle and getting a zenith distance. The only problem is this can only happen from the equatorial plane. Or if the equatorial plane is really the Earth, you just do the top hemisphere and bottom hemisphere just to fool us then, because this is what's happening. Because you can't get an angle from a curved surface. And yet this is from a navigation site. It's embarrassing. And the last one is really cool because it shows the celestial sphere, okay? It shows north celestial pole matches with the north pole directly underneath. It shows the angle from the center of the Earth, the plane we live on, and then it extends through all the way to the celestial sphere, and then it's reprojected down in the same arc of an inside concave sphere and made it to be the top of a sphere that they tell us we live on. There's your Haversine doing all that transformative equation just to fool you because angle measurement kills them.
This is the best diagram to starkly contrast the original diagram. Unfortunately, I have to flick through a few others to get to it. But this is a great depiction because it's got this sort of faded grey circle called celestial sphere. And then you've got obviously the primary focus, the nice colourful globe Earth in the middle. And then the diagram showing where does the angle originate? Well, it's nice and labelled, centre of Earth. So you can see how this is the depiction of an angle measurement from the centre of Earth that you're not standing out to the celestial sphere. Well, okay, so the angle's going to be taking place from here. Well, is there a better diagram that shows us exactly what that means? Well, yeah, this is the centre. Here's your flat plane that you actually stand on and hold the tool to measure the angle to the star. And what do you know? We've got it marked in a very similar fashion. Celestial sphere with a black line all the way around the edge. And the greyed area being what you're standing on to measure this angle, because that's the only way you can measure it. Even in the globe diagram, they've got it on the outside edge of your angle measurement to the celestial sphere. The globe Earth bit in the middle is redundant. It's not even redundant, it's surplus to requirements. It's not needed in any way, shape or form, so long as you can measure from the centre point. In fact, putting a giant spherical rock in the way of where you need to stand to measure this angle very much causes problems because you can't stand at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth to measure this angle. What you can do is stand on a flat plane, hold a tool for measuring an angle and look at a star with it. And that's what this diagram represents. No surplus to requirement globe in the middle of this diagram because it's surplus to requirements. It's not needed or helpful. Excellent string of slides, by the way. Thank you, 10th.
Welcome.
I didn't get a chance to mention it.
John first. Sorry, Chocolate. It's not because you're black.
That's great. Now I got to follow that. I didn't get a chance to mention it earlier, but I wanted to thank the person who pointed out the Haver sign. I guess it would be a logical conundrum for the globe, and that's Ruhif. He's a really good guy pointing that out to me.
I missed
Well done.
I missed the point. Sorry. What did he point out to you? I was concentrating on a button not working.
Oh, the law of Haver sign. How he needs to apply that to get his globe.
Then maybe we should direct it towards Ruhif. If the Earth's a sphere, why do you need to apply Haversine?
I didn't know John was black.
No, I said chocolate. Chocolate can wait in the wings for a moment, and it's not because he's black. It's because I heard John first. I was accused in the comments of always relegating chocolate to the back of the queue because he's black. I'm like, number one, I am also black, so that's totally unreasonable. And number two, Eli's always put at the front of the queue, so it's just pure favoritism. I just don't like chocolate.
I didn't even know chocolate was black.
I'm not black. I'm chocolate.
Yeah, chocolate. Anyway, jokes aside.
All right. So, before because I know the show's about to end in a little bit, but before because you said we didn't do axial rotation yet, and I have a thing about that, and I also posted a audio clip in Master D that relates to that because I want to relate this to the really is level. So
Okay.
if you could play that. And...
Do you want me to ask the question first?
Yeah, if you want.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety? Chocolate. What say you?
Hold on a second. I got work. Hold on.
Reference frames ruined. We wouldn't expect to see any
No,
deviation. It's all relative.
the chocolate. What were you talking about? Which argument or what you said you destroyed me?
Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kosho. But you once declared that the rotating hurricanes were actually going in a straight line. They just appeared to rotate because we were on a rotating reference frame.
It's 100% true that the winds are going in a straight line.
And
there's no reason for them to travel.
I wasn't lying,
There's no
guys.
reason for them to travel in a circle on their own. So the Earth is rotating. But when they start off their travel, they're going north or south, depending on. So the high pressures are going to go towards the south.
Say winds all go in straight line.
It's 100% true that the winds are going in a straight line.
Okay. Chocolate's been called away to work, so his point that he wants to make.
I'm back.
Oh, okay.
I'm back. My boss has the worst freaking timing. I'm all alone by myself for freaking 20 minutes. As soon as I want to talk, everyone shows up. Okay. So, you just played the clip, right? And obviously, the reason that he made that statement was because I asked why does a hurricane, and just to relate this to the really is level, we currently have a hurricane happening, right? Not too far from where I live. So the past couple of days, I've been, listening to news and just paying attention to this, right? And I keep coming back to this very argument because, as you heard, we were told that hurricanes 100% move in a straight line, when that's never, ever, ever depicted, and that literally goes against what a hurricane actually is. But, and I'm not trying to pick on Kosho in any way with this, but it shows you that certain arguments will have people say things that are completely against reality. Now, it's not that he's a stupid guy, because he understands that he had to respond that way. It's kind of like the guy that said that the planes are traveling backwards. It's not that that guy thinks that planes are traveling backwards. It's that that's the response that has to be if their claim is correct. So my question kind of is and this is mostly for like the Globers, really, like the people who argue with us and don't like us or whatever. Do you think that that's reality? Do you think that a hurricane is a storm where winds are moving 100% in a straight line? Or do you disagree with it and just think that that's something that a Glober just said, just spewed out his mouth because he had to in order to salvage his argument, right? Because we know that, I mean, the response itself is ridiculous because, as I said, hurricanes are always depicted from the inertial reference frame, right? The satellites, the high altitude balloon footage, all that crap, right? Whatever you want to call it, that's the inertial reference frame. So if what you're saying is true, Kosho, or whoever Glover thinks that hurricanes move straight, that's where we would see it. We do not. So my question is, again, is that reality? Is that something that you can agree with? Or is that just some nonsense that a Glober spewed because that's what he has to salvage the model?
Asked and answered. So you've explained that they have to go there by their logic. So if you're going to claim that, as claimed in Wiki and by Tyson and various others at various stages of their doublespeak, that hurricanes are an effect of Coriolis, and then you break down to them that that effect is not actual, i.e. it's an effect where you observe something that's actually moving straight appear to curve because you're turning beneath it, a la a ball tossed over the top of a roundabout while you're rotating beneath it will appear to take a curved path even though it's moving straight. Well, if you say, well, hurricanes or winds in general, they're a Coriolis related effect because I've seen it on Wiki, and you go, okay, so you're suggesting that we're rotating under the winds, making them look like they're moving in a circular hurricane-like pattern, when in fact they're travelling straight and it's the not actual curved path that we're seeing from the ground because we turn beneath. That's what they have to say if they assert that winds in any way, shape or form are connected to Coriolis effect, because the winds would have to be moving straight and only appearing to take a curved path if we're claiming that Earth's turning beneath them to cause Coriolis deflection. Therefore, the logic dictates that they are moving straight then, because we're rotating beneath them on a turning Earth and seeing them seem to go round and round. They're not really going round and round, they're going straight. So that's why he has to go to that nonsense, because he can't help but do it when he employs the logic that Coriolis is connected to winds, which it isn't.
What they're doing there, unfortunately, to balance that conundrum, is creating two reference frames. Now, if you create two reference frames, wind's moving one way and the Earth's rotating another to give the appearance of Coriolis, then the Earth's rotating underneath the wind. It's no longer in lockstepness with the rotating Earth, so flights from LA to Charlottesville would be shorter.
Right. That's what Coriolis is.
Plus your depictions of an apparently deviating hurricane would come from the non-inertial reference frame. That would be the ground.
But in making that claim, you generate two reference frames, don't you? Which is something they like to avoid because of the flight routes. But to do that for the winds, you have to then separate the reference frames to observe the Coriolis effect as you rotate
the same ones that were ruined.
Yeah, no. Let me just highlight what Adam's going, because I want to keep it nice and concise. Good point, Adam. What Adam's saying is typically they'll avoid at all costs the notion of Earth turning beneath anything, because it's easily shown to not be occurring, we'd notice. But in this instance, because it's slightly ambiguous with wind, there's a claim that in line with Coriolis effect and the globe Earth turning beneath stuff to see it seem to curve, we're seeing wind seem to curve because we're turning beneath it. Ergo, nonsensical as it sounds, the wind's actually travelling straight. But in order for him to make that nonsensical, crazy-ass assertion, he has to employ two reference frames. Earth turning beneath the seeming to curve wind that's actually moving straight. Well, actually moving straight in the inertial reference frame as we observe it seem to curve according to him as we turn beneath. Well, in that claim, he's got Earth turning beneath, which is actually the claim, just like the fact that Adam's shocked that an anti-flat earther like Kosho would employ any argument for a globe Earth turning that utilises two reference frames, because we go, okay, so Earth's turning underneath the wind then? Well, that's definitely going to shorten a flight time from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles to about an hour and a half because Earth's turning underneath the plane that's travelling through the wind, shortening its flight time. Definitely not the case. Winds just travel in circles, but an actual circle trajectory isn't anything to do with Coriolis unless you're in it. So unless you're moving around and around like Dorothy in the hurricane, you're not going to observe things seem to drift because you're turning. You've got to be in the hurricane to have it have anything to do with Coriolis effect. Unless you're in the hurricane, it's just something turning that you observe actually turning. Coriolis is not actual turning because you turn beneath, which is what the globe actually claims. Just like I say, shocking that Kosho would even attempt to bring in a second reference frame because it's so easy to undo with a flight. Thank you, Adam. Who was it that was trying to get in on after the fact? Was it you, Arwin?
No.
Someone else was trying to get in there as well while Adam was making the end of his point, or I reiterated it. Was nobody going to stand up? No, nobody.
No, I was just. All I had to say is we wouldn't expect to see any deviation. It's all relative. The stars are spinning, and we don't notice any motion, and that's it.
But the stars are spinning is just an apparent, regardless of who or what your position is. The stars do apparently move in a circular fashion. The assertion is that Earth's turning beneath to cause that circular motion. That's Coriolis effect. You know, the straight up, simplistic as it gets, we're supposed to be on a turning Earth, and that causes the motion of the stars. Well, if that's the case, we're turning beneath them, in line with the claim of Coriolis.
With it and all that, so.
Say again?
Nathan?
Hold on.
Yeah, let me just...
Hold on, just
okay,
Alwyn started to make now. Go on, Alwyn. You're saying, but the wind what?
Everything, no, because it's relative, thanks to Einstein's discovery, the Earth and everything on it, including the gas that will stick to it because of bending of space-time, it will just rotate and everything will just stay as it is and we won't notice any motion because it's all relative. And so, yeah, that's why it all moves in lockstep, or seems to. And it seems to us on Earth that the universe outside, the giant universe, is spinning around us, but it is actually us that is spinning. But because it's all relative, we don't notice.
Yeah, but meanwhile, the globe's got a claim of actual Coriolis deflection at 15 degrees now, though, hasn't it?
Yeah, but it turns out that it doesn't really happen. So Einstein just was right.
So unless you make that disclaimer as Baldwin, which is pretty devastating, well, we don't see 15 degrees an hour of drift. But because it's Einstein, blah, 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 blah. No. The globe's claim to have 15 degrees an hour of deflection, that's Coriolis effect, to prove that we're spinning. And it's exampled by you with the stars. That's another example of claim to be Coriolis effect, second reference frame being the inertial reference frame of the stars, and the non-inertial turning reference frame of the Earth at 15 degrees an hour. There'll be a not actual deflection claimed by the globe in the stars. Not we won't notice, because in your example, if you say we won't notice, suddenly the stars have stopped moving. That's what not notice means in that example. Not notice is they don't move anymore. The stars, that is.
Yeah, but there's a reason why we don't notice anything about the Earth moving.
The stars do move.
Because of the vastness of the weight of Earth. It's such a large body.
No.
It bends space and time slightly, and then all things become relative. So
No. Not all things become relative. You're now arguing for how we don't notice. But that means you've just completely ignored what I've said about the stars having to stop if you're going to claim that we won't notice. Not noticing is the stars stopping.
What I'm saying is that because of the sheer weight of Earth spinning, we don't notice any deviation because it's like being...
I'm going to have to stop and round out the show because he's just circle jerking me right at the end of the live show just to annoy me so I look sweaty and irritated on camera. I'm not going to allow him to do it. No. Saying that the Earth's heavy and therefore won't notice isn't addressing the fact that not noticing means the stars would have to stop spinning. If you're going to claim that there's no 15 degrees an hour globe-based Coriolis effect noticeable in the stars. If we're not noticing, the stars have stopped. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, hit the thanks button and all that good stuff. Another massive thank you to today's Gilded and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Behind that, right? So I've been building this for a while.
Oh, did
When you say deviation?
did I piss on a bonfire?
No, I've been waiting for
Oh,
you
we're
to come
throwing
back.
fuel on this bonfire. We're getting it going.
All right,
That ain't
but
going to
before
happen.
we go,
I've got a very big
Na-
fire extinguisher here, I'm telling you.
Nathan, what's the official globe claim?
You what, sorry?
What is the official globe claim about the Earth? Is it spinning or not spinning?
Earth is claimed to be spinning and be exampled as spinning with a deflection rate of 15 degrees an hour called Coriolis effect.
Okay. So we have a current hurricane in Florida. If the Earth was spinning, why is that hurricane still over Florida?
Nothing to do with the globe's claim that's supposed to be proving it spins, because the globe claim that's supposed to be proving it spins is a not actual deflection observable as U-turn on a turning Earth beneath things not attached to it. That would be the stars, as an example, aren't attached to Earth, and they appear to have a deflection rate of 15 degrees an hour, claimed to be proving Earth is turning beneath them. Now, if that was the case, then we would have two reference frames, non-inertial and inertial. Us turning beneath on the non-inertial turning Earth, observing things in the inertial reference frame drifting, as claimed, at 15 degrees an hour. That would shorten flight times and does not happen. Nobody's observing anything drift ever. Hurricanes have got nothing to do with Coriolis effect, unless you're in one.
All right. All right. So let me continue then. Gas behavior. What is gas behavior, which is obviously what we're talking about here in the hurricane?
What's this hurricane got to do with globe Earth at this point? I've just pointed out that it's nothing to do with the globe Earth claim of proof of spin. So why are we talking about this? Isn't what weather debate?
No,
I don't get it.
what I'm trying to get to is we already know they're going to say atmosphere and Earth spin as one. We already know they're going to say that, but we know that's not true because we have northeast, west, south winds. Now we got this hurricane. Earth is spinning. Gas behavior is gas goes in all directions, right? With gas pressure and so forth. So we got this hurricane, but the Earth is spinning overnight. But I woke up this morning and the hurricane's still going over Florida. Well, it should be over some other area because the Earth is spinning in their model. But so the reason it's still over Florida is because the Earth is not spinning, is my point.
Fair enough.
And to top it off, if they want to double down and say, "Oh no, it's spinning as one," and oh, so like, you know how they say when you're in a car with the windows up, and oh, okay, so then the Earth's a closed system. Well, I thought it was supposed to be an open system. So they die on so many fronts because they have to lie. Instead of proving Earth is spinning, they have to lie.
Well, in the anti-flat earther claim, where they have the atmosphere and Earth moving as one, the inertial frame that they would have to claim would be in outer space. Could you have gas pressure without a container, though?
Yes, because we're all breathing. And of course, we're on a planet in the middle of an endless vacuum.
It also would have to be spinning north to south because the track of the hurricane, a good majority of it is north to south, not west to east.
Can you regale us with your various different accounts from Globe believing Muppets of planes flying backwards, QE.
Regale you. It's too early to regaling.
Yeah, and it's all straw manning anyway, right? Because nobody claims, except for people early in the 20th century with all the videos claiming that, yeah, you would have Coriolis deviation. Yeah, but guess what? We don't. Not because it's not a ball Earth, but because Einstein's relativity showed that if the mass is long enough, everything will be dragged in lockstep. And yes, I just made that up.
Yeah, we know. If Lieutenant Kendrick gave an order that Santiago wasn't to be touched, then why did he have to be transferred? Colonel? Lieutenant Kendrick ordered the code red, didn't he? Because that's what you told Lieutenant Kendrick to do. And when it went bad, you cut these guys loose. You had Markinson sign a phony transfer order. You doctored the logbook. You coerced the doctor. Colonel Jessup, did you order the code red?
You read that right, I did.
That was
You
pretty
want
good.
answers?
Man, I was getting into that.
Yeah, the next line's you want answers. You want answers? Did you order the code red? You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Handle the truth.
Yeah. Truer words have never been spoken before in a movie.
So
It's
if the
why
Earth-
movie magic works, because people can't handle the truth.
So if the Earth's
So
a
they
sphere...
present a alternative reality in a dream.
Thank you,
where
Arwin.
it's
Thank
safe
you.
to approach.
My God, will this
And-
drone ever end?
Oh my God.
So, yeah, it would be useful to connect it to the show in some way, rather than drone on about bloody movies. Thank you, Arwin. So, if the Earth's a sphere with a measured spherical surface, then why would it be necessary to convert it to a sphere?
Exactly.
Because people wanted to figure out how to. It's like, okay, what if the Earth was actually flat? How would you convert that
My
measurement
God,
of
my
a flat
God.
Earth into a ball?
You didn't study any drama at school, did you? So compare and contrast with what you just said to, you want the truth! You can't handle the truth! Yeah, compare the two, Arwin. Yeah?
That was the
I want to
reason
make
why I
a
joined.
comparison.
I don't know, man. You haven't let me finish a single sentence this entire show.
Nathan, he's just butthurt because he can't fully play out Baldwin past the time that you gave him.
It's instinctual,
This is
Arwin.
the
When you
reason
play
why I joined
baller,
today.
it's instinctual. First load of nonsense waffle
Stop
gets
it.
cut off. That's how it is. You know the score.
This is the
Yeah,
reason why
but
I
now
joined.
you never know what I was actually going to say.
Yeah, that's a baller rebuttal, isn't it? So let me get it right. I cut you off at the first nonsense and then address the nonsense rather than letting you waffle on with verbal diarrhea for 6 straight minutes. Response in the comment section. But if you'd have let him get to the end of his nonsense waffle, he'd have proven Earth's a sphere. You cut him off, you've got a mute button. No, we
But this is-
stop you at
This
the
is
point
not
that you make
just some
nonsense up.
nonsense. This is what the ballers are going to roll out in the near future. I'm just giving you a heads up, showing you how it works and where they're going to go.
Near future.
You're calling
the
you're calling
ballers are
pre-nonsense?
picking up scraps on the floor for arguments. What you mean in the near future? What are you talking about?
Yeah, they're
He's
still
no
going.
chocolate.
No, the
Chocolate
ball
is-
religion
Oh,
never
gosh.
ends. It never
Okay,
ends.
so you've got
Yeah,
pre-nonsense
we've
before
ended
the.
it.
You'll get it someday.
It's still going out there. I know we ended the arguments for them, but that doesn't mean that it ends. They'll
Okay, so
still
what
be
you're
going.
All right.
What's going on? Did you find?
Can I just
up,
ask a
Riley?
question?
Hey,
What's up,
sleeping
Riley?
warrior.
Okay, right,
how
let's
are
get some
you?
order. Okay, right. We want 10th, hopefully briefly, then chocolate, or was it Eli? I couldn't tell the difference. They're both black. And then not chocolate, Sleeping Warrior.
All right, so I totally going to relinquish my time to sleeping warrior because I'm glad he's on the show. Go ahead, buddy.
No.
I just wanted to
what do you mean?
reiterate that the
God,
reason.
No.
The reason.
No, stop. Was it Eli that was trying to get a word in there?
it was me, the other Eli, but I'll give up my spot for Riley because I would like him.
Fine. Go ahead, Chocolate. I keep calling you Chocolate. Go ahead, Riley. I don't even call you Riley. Go ahead.
Is it because I'm white? Right. Anyway, I only joined today because it's a legitimate question that Nathan asked earlier. It's been asked a few times, and it sounds like it's being accepted or taken as a rhetorical, but it is a legitimate question that they need to address. If the Earth is measured as a sphere, why does geodesic surveying exist? Why do you need to calculate it into a ball if it's measured as a sphere in the first place? Because that's what planar surveying would do. It would measure it as a curve, but it doesn't do it, does it? So why do you calculate it into a curve? Why does that process actually exist? It's not a rhetorical question.
No, we know it's not
Because
rhetorical.
they wanted to know.
You can't handle the
wanted
truth.
that.
Yep, we know. Definitely not rhetorical. We've been trying to iron this out as a housekeeping question for the better part of about 2.5 months, Anthony.
It's because they wanted to know how you would calculate the Earth to be a globe if the Earth was flat. That's why it exists.
But
not because the Earth actually is flat. They just were curious on how would we fool the people if the Earth was actually flat, which of course it isn't. You know?
Props to Anthony for recognizing the significance of the question, though, right, Anthony? It's a bit of a, whoa, hang on a second. Why are we converting to sphere if it's a sphere?
If it's already one.
Yeah. It's like when they say, if it were a flat Earth, then da-di-da-di-da. So, they're kind of begging the question. Well, you can flip that back on them and say, well, if it's a sphere, why is it not measured as a sphere? Why does geodesic surveying exist? And the answer is, and that's it. That tumbleweed noise. I should have made the tumbleweed sound effect, but there is no response to it. But they let you think that it's a rhetorical question and no answer is required. Well, that's not true. It is a legitimate question and we want it answering. So if there's anybody out there that can answer it, I'd love to hear it.
I just gave you one.
Eli asked the question.
Here.
Eli asked the question earlier. Right?
Go on, Eli.
Wow, Eli, your mic. Bro.
Yeah, your mic's breaking up. I agree. Maybe next Tuesday sometime, Eli. In any event, it is an important question. We do want to labour it. We have been trying to refine it. But if you think about it, Anthony, it's kind of like how we were asking the question back in 2015, just much more polished up and refined. You know, it was a rock we pulled out of the ground back then. Now it's a nice shiny sword. But asking them, well, why are you doing these processes? Why are you measuring it this way? We had a vague idea where we were going at when we were looking at the various different surveying methods back in the day. We just didn't know what we had. Now, what is it, 6-7 years later? Maybe a bit less. You go, why are you not measuring it as a sphere? And why are you measuring it flat and converting it to a sphere? It seems so easy to ask now. It just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? It's almost too concise. You know what I mean? It is. Why not just measure it as a sphere then? Because it isn't one.
Well, we should
the same
call
proto turd was. Sorry, mate.
Go on, Chocolate.
No, go ahead, brother.
Go ahead, One Deck.
I was just saying, proto turd was in chatting about the Haversine and things about that about 1430. He's got some comments on why it's used and you know what he's like, but it's there in chat, talking shite as usual.
The Haversine formula. Wonderful way to turn a sphere into a sphere.
That's an important point. And as time goes by, all of the flat Earth debate points have got more and more and more concise. You know, mostly thanks to Brian's logic. He's put a sharp point on all of them a couple of weeks before all of us got there.
I'm not sure if it is turning it into a sphere. It does appear to be a transformative equation which you could perceive, but it seems to be back calculating the distance to Polaris. Now, it uses a great circle route, but that is the distance to Polaris, and that appears to be what it's doing, is setting up the longitude latitude system with your perspective to calculate using R, but it's R based on the distance to Polaris
Well,
as
as
an
far as
R.
I'm aware, it calculates the distance of an arc between 2 points. So,
Yeah,
like from A to B on a plane, it would be like the straight line. But if you assume that it's a sphere and then you've got an arc, because that will be part of the circumference, then it's calculating that distance. But it's based on the geode model. It's not actually based on the 3959 geometrical Earth that we're told we live on. It's based on the geode model, which is a slightly flattened ellipsoid. So it's essentially still curving the straight line. But I heard,
not exactly, not exactly, because you're moving through degrees. What they're doing is, instead of measuring off a flat plane up to the angle, they're twisting the protractor that is the globe Earth by a number of degrees. So you're rotating a protractor as opposed to taking the angle off it. So then the surface becomes the curved edge of the top of the protractor.
Remember, all you're doing is, when you do this, Tony says great circle route, you are, and the reason you apply a great circle route is what you're doing, as far as I can see, is you're still doing celestial navigation, but instead of you're taking the two ends, so I don't know, London, Paris, whatever, you want to calculate the distance between those two. But you're doing the same thing. You're in the middle, and you're then calculating that. You know how tense picture? You're calculating using those degrees between the 2 points from the longitude latitude. So it's a back calculation that way, but you're still applying that angular distances based on celestial navigation to do the calculation. So I don't think you're necessarily using R, you're just applying it in when you use the celestial map and then convert it to longitude latitude to calculate the distance. And the only way to do that, because the only way we see is in an arc, is to calculate everything as a great arc, which is the great arc we see. So that's why you have to convert it to that. That's why it's passed off as the shortest route. It is, but that's the way you calculate it each time, because that's the way you see it.
It's also a way, as Brian genuinely did point out for the first, or to me initially, that's a way of maintaining the equatorial radial circumferential value, correct?
Yeah. Hello, everyone.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Nathan. Hey, everybody. The Habermas formula is 2 points. It's a point that was being made on Babs, actually. The Habermas formula just deals with 2 points. Now, geometrically, from a geometry point of view, the shortest distance between 2 points is always a straight line. For there to be a curve, there has to be 3 points. So all they're doing, if you look at them, all they're doing is taking if you look at celestial navigation, they take horizontal measurements, which are circles of equal altitude, and put them onto a distorted map, which is the universal transverse Mercator. And they then undistort the map, right? When you say undistort, they undistort it to a globe. And then they're basically taking longitude lines, which are straight lines on our map. You look at something like a Gleason's map or whatever, they're just a straight line. And they're then taking those and working off of them, but adding R to curve them at the rate they need them curved at. That's
right,
what they're
because
doing.
the map keeps the conversion rates working through degrees rather than working through the measurements of the celestial sphere model. So then when you convert it back onto the curved surface, you've distorted the values to curve them, but you haven't changed the distance, because it's always going to be that straight line distance, correct?
Yeah, the distance has never changed. See, they distort it first with the universal transverse Mercator. Because if you imagine, let's just say, to get the distance between me and a celestial body, I make a horizontal measurement with a sextant on the sea. And that distance is, let's say, 2,000 nautical miles. then when that goes on to the universal transverse Mercator, that's going to get distorted. And when they undistort that, that is just undistorted and put onto basically an AE map and or added it. That's basically what it is. If you look at what great circle routes are, the only great circle route that is an east to west route is the equator, but nobody travels the equator route unless you live on two very. And if you are going to travel between 2 points on the equator, you're not going to go around in a circle because that's not the shortest route. So there's no boat route or shipping route or airline route that travels the equator. It doesn't happen. Nobody follows a circle. Like they have to. That's one part of one of my. That was one of the things I was pointing out in my last presentation. Like on the globe, the equator is a straight line route, or as much of a straight line as they can make it. You just travel, let's just say 90 degrees from your zenith, and when you keep walking, let's just say hypothetically, you should end up back where you started by just going in a straight line. But that doesn't happen. Nobody travels the equator. There's no shipping route that travels along the equator line. There's no airline route that travels along the equator line. Because
all we need to do, Brian, we just need to apply the wormhole paradox. You know what the wormhole is, right?
No, I don't.
It's where they claim that you can get from point A to point B in the infinity of space. They say the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. But if you bend the fabric of space-time round so it's like a piece of paper bent back on itself, so it's like a teardrop, you can create a wormhole to go through. But in real world, obviously, you can't actually bend the geometry. So even though you can conceptually bend the geometry around with a piece of paper and claim that the geometry changes and therefore wormholes can theoretically exist, in real world they can't. So essentially what I'm saying is the wormhole paradox is the thing that corners them. Because if that really was the case, I could just bend Australia back round to England and then just walk through the wormhole and then appear in Australia as though I've dug through the centre of the earth. Just bent Australia around to it and bent all the... Doesn't happen though, does it? You have fixed parameters in real world. But if they don't have to work at the really is level, then they can do exactly that. Conceptually, they can do that. And it makes logical sense to them conceptually. And we just say, yeah, but we don't live in that world. So the wormhole paradox is the thing that undoes their model, because you can't have the wormhole paradox in real world. It is it's impossible. So that's all we've got to say to it. It's game over.
I've got a question for Adam.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's applicable to you, Brian, but as Adam's literally a mathematician, you can speak to motive in this regard. Does this process or the development of this process not imply intentional deceit mathematically?
No, I think that not mathematical deceit, because the maths is right. It's the interpretation for me. Brian makes a good point in terms of this. See, everything's calculated as if it's a great circle route. Okay, and that's how you calculate the distances accurately. And that works. Yeah, there's some margin of error, but it pretty much works. So what are you doing there? Now, when Brian talked about the equator, that is the archetypal great circle route, the one we should always follow. But as Brian says, in the real world, ships don't follow that. Why? Because it's not right. It's not a straight line. It's not the shortest distance between A and B on a sphere. But it should be. But when you calculate everything, you basically, point A, you always turn point A into the North Pole, and then you just draw a line to point B and continue it all the way around. That's your great circle. Yeah. So that equator should, in theory, be a marker. But as Brian says, in the real world, that doesn't apply. People go all sorts of strange routes that appear longer, even shipping routes, which are is nonsensical. Does that make sense? But the calculations, certainly in the northern hemisphere, are correct.
Right. Well,
yeah.
okay. After the fact, with the discovery of the new worlds, obviously this has ballsed up all of the maps. But yeah, that's what I was driving at when I said about it. Reminds me of the aspects we were sort of just scraping the surface of back in, what would it be, 2015, 2016, when we were looking at it and going over stories of people having their journeys extended or reduced depending on what they were doing. And like I say, we're just scratching the surface and now seeing how these conversions to things like the Mercator and the degrees that they're using, because you're measuring elevation angles of a flat plane, and therefore can convert onto straight lines on a map to be distorted back onto a globe and work with the Haversine formula. All very complicated stuff, but like I say, it does make me reminisce about 2015. I'm gonna have to reset my desk, so everyone just keep quiet for about 10 seconds, because otherwise you won't get heard. And we're back in the room.
Just one other point, and I raised it with Taboo's video, the French, I think he's French, sounded French, mariner that did the yacht races. He's magnetic declination. And all of these charts are laid out as if that they incorporate the magnetic declination lines, which are basically telling you to go on a different route, which basically means the piece of land is at a different bearing. So there's that bit built in, these magnetic declinations, which mean you have to go on a different bearing to what the map says, which means place is actually in a different place compared to the map. But you can use the map with the magnetic declination and all these other things to get the correct bearing. So when I said no earlier, is it subterfuge? And I would say it's intertwined. And why would you intertwine it in a way that makes it a lot easier to interpret everything as a ball? I suppose subterfuge is probably the logical conclusion.
Maybe this is just a bugged out question, but right. So if we really did have two reference frames, right, and somehow this was discovered, right? They've told us we've known this for so long, right? Okay, it's great. In these maps that you're talking about, Adam, right? Wouldn't the guys that are making the maps, the guys that are traveling, right? Wouldn't they be smart enough to understand how that would work, and wouldn't they incorporate that if it was the really is level, and in reality we do have these reference frames as far as aircrafts are concerned? Wouldn't that be something that they would incorporate in there? Like, if you take this route, obviously the equator is where this ball is moving the fastest, right? It's rotating the fastest as far as tangential velocity. So why is that not incorporated in any way in these maps and in the way that people move around the Earth, quote unquote?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Say again?
Does that make sense, or was that jumbled? I mean, I don't.
Pretty jumbled.
I'm just.
He's back. This is what I said about Kosho's thing. That's why it's surprising, because he's invoking two reference frames. They always go locksteppedness to get away from that problem, don't they?
Can I get a radio check?
Hello.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Nathan, can you stay, my good sir, after a couple minutes after the show,
I
please?
saw your message. Yeah.
You saw the message. That was my next question. Go ahead.
Yes, I will.
Yeah, so I didn't want to interrupt. So I was waiting for the answer. Say, yeah, like it's existing out there somewhere. That's fine. So my next point is, how did Adam turn into a mathematician all of a sudden? I thought he was a pharmacologist.
Pharmacist.
I'm sorry. Pharmacist.
Don't give me a lesser degree. That's just professional snobbery.
That still didn't answer the question.
It's a multidiscipline degree, pharmacy. Maths, chemistry, pharmacology.
You know, Adam, if you apply more heat, you'll have more degrees.
Define heat.
More degrees.
Wait, hold
Nathan,
up. So
hang on. Nathan, I got
okay.
2 slides on celestial navigation, then I got to screw it. If you can go to Master B real quick.
Attempting the slides, man.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Okay, the celestial equator. You see that one right there in the middle, basically? It's just above the middle.
I've got text up. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, it's the first of 2 text stuff.
Yeah.
So the first one on top should say vertical circles or great circles.
Yes.
Of the sphere. Okay, good. Let me just read it. Vertical circles are great circles of the sphere which pass through the zenith and nadir. The vertical circle, the plane of which is perpendicular to the plane of the celestial meridian, is called the prime vertical. The points which the prime vertical cuts the horizon are called east and west point of the horizon. And the line which joins the 2 points is east and the west line. Now, this is the point I want to focus on. The celestial equator, also called the equinoctial, is the great circle of the sphere in which the plane, emphasis, of the Earth's equator indefinitely produced meets the celestial sphere. The altitude of a heavenly body is its angular distance above the plane, emphasis, of the celestial horizon, measured on a vertical circle passing through that body. The zenith distance of the body is its angular distance from the zenith and is evidently the complement of the altitude. Where does the nautical almanac say the vertex is on angle measurement to the stars? Originate from? Anybody?
Flat
The
baseline.
plane of the equator, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you see how they put this celestial sphere and circles? Well, if the angle is measured from a plane, your whole distances would be awry if it was measured from somewhere else. It has to match the measurement, and they're telling you it's from a plane. I mean, it's a dead giveaway. Go to the next slide. The celestial horizon is the great circle formed by a plane passing through the center of the Earth at the right angles to the zenith of the observer and extended until it intersects the celestial sphere. Well, there are no right angles from a curved surface. So they're basically telling you all the circles we're talking about is made up to put you on the globe, but it's from right angles. Well, you can't get that from the surface. You can only get that from a plane, which we read earlier. The plane of the celestial horizon is parallel to the plane of the sensible horizon. Here's the trick. They're saying you're on a curve, and where your horizontal line with a bubble is your eye line, that's the same as the celestial. It's parallel. They just moved you out of the where the vertex, where the angle came from, which is a flat plane called the equatorial plane. And it shows you the picture. What is the artificial horizon? Any liquid in a state of rest forming a reflective surface is an artificial horizon. Mercury being generally used for this purpose. Last but not least, what is the dip of the horizon? The dip of the sea horizon is the angle of depression at the point of observation due to the elevation of the observer's eye above the level of the sea. That is your plane. That is your equatorial plane, that level of the sea. They just make you think it's on a curve, which you can't get an angle measurement from. So you see they're done here. Or the angle between the visible and the sensible horizon. So that fictitious eye-line horizon that's parallel to the visible, which is the sea horizon. That depression angle, as you can see it here. They can't win this argument. We're using their own books to destroy them.
Cool. Thank you. Did you say you got a skedaddle?
Yeah, I got to get going. I'll catch you hopefully tomorrow. Moving on Saturday to Idaho. Got to go pack.
It was a good presentation.
You're moving on Saturday. I thought you'd already moved.
No, I've taken 4 loads.
And you did like 10,000 miles or whatever it was each time.
Over. I'm over 10 already. So this last load will take me well over 11
Where the
to
hell
12.
are you moving
Wow,
to?
that's like an entire migration.
Wait, where are you moving to, son?
I'm moving from Southern California to Idaho.
Oh. Well, basically Noah and his ark, but your ark's not big enough.
Well, I take measurements off a flat plane, so there are no arcs except
He's
for
trying to
with
be
my
more
eye.
like Brian. He's moving up to the potato trees.
Okay.
Listen, I love French fries. I'll admit it. I give up.
On that racist note, I'm going to say with that, another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!